Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Ironclad for Slay the Spire 2. How to win, how to play with it, and all of that. I've posted a couple guides on the two new characters, the Necrobinder and the Regent, so if you're interested in those, go check them out. But today, it's all about the Ironclad. So this is going to be a fairly comprehensive overview of the character, so hopefully by the end of this, you should walk away with a very deep understanding of the Ironclad. I'm going to start talking about unique features of the character, the gameplay style, like in what way you should be playing the character, and then builds overview will talk more about like the cards and what cards you should be looking to play with the character. And then I'll end with a tier list ranking all of the cards, hopefully make it easier for you to get a sense of what you should be picking and what can be good. The one kind of new-ish mechanic for the character, unique mechanic for the Ironclad, is Exhaust. And what Exhaust does is it removes a card for the rest of the combat. So like Brand, lose an HP, exhaust a card, gain 1 strength. And it's really common, and I felt this way when I started playing, that this is a bad thing. Like, why would I want to exhaust a card? But the key takeaway is that Exhaust allows you to get the bad cards out of your deck in the middle of a combat. Like if you've happened to use Brand to exhaust 3 strikes, they're not in your deck anymore, and so you can have a higher density of good cards to finish the fight with. Just as a good example, Rampage, its damage gets stronger every single time you play it. So the smaller your deck is, the quicker you're able to redraw the Rampage. You know, if you exhausted everything but the Rampage, you could just keep playing Rampage over and over and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So while Exhaust might seem new or scary, like why would I want to get cards out of my deck? I promise it is one of the strongest things that the Ironclad can be doing, because sculpting your deck, getting the bad cards out of it, is so powerful. So don't be scared of Exhaust. It's a really good thing almost always, if you can choose what you're exhausting anyway. The starting relic for the character, at the end of combat you heal 6 HP. This is one of the more unique relics. It gives you sustained healing, which changes how you can play with the character. I would say, by and large with this character, taking small hits here and there is okay. And it makes overblocking less good, or maybe like just less necessary. So just as an example, if you're being attacked for 8, you could defend for 1, and that's 5 block, or you could play 2 defends and block for 10. So overblocking is when you're blocking for 10 and getting hit for 8. That's an overblock of 2. And it just means you're being less efficient with your cards than just blocking for 5. And so what I'm saying is basically the general playstyle of the Ironclad is to sometimes it's okay to take a little bit of chip damage, just block for 5 here, and play the 2 strikes so you can kill this thing before its damage scales up to like 10, 12, 15, right? The idea is you take small hits sometimes to prevent big hits from happening later. If you take 3, you can heal that. If you take 15, you start getting into a problem. This isn't to say you should never block. If you know you can win without taking damage, definitely do that. But if you're unsure, like you don't know, I would lean towards pushing damage instead of overblocking too much, because you can heal it. And another good example, just in general with the Ironclad, this character has so much good damage output. You can heal between combats. Just leaning more aggressive, similar to the previous lesson of like, don't be too concerned about taking small hits. In this case, it might be correct to just take 17 damage here, because like Bash Strike Spite is the most damage you can probably output in this combat. And by pushing damage now, taking 17 from this hit, you're preventing like a hit from 36 from this thing later on as its damage scales up. So just in general, attacking is quite good on this character. So if you're unsure what to be doing, try pushing damage. It's harder to fail when you're attacking than it is blocking. But don't just take damage freely. Like, you're still going to die if you're just taking hits for 20 every single turn. We'll talk about that more a bit later. By and large, I'm actually very surprised. They did a really good job with the Ironclad's card pool. I think there's very few like bad cards on the character. I went through my histogram of my tier list, and this is how I ranked the card quality. So this is like S tier, A, B, C, and D. A lot of S, A, and B tier cards on this character. So it's hard to go too wrong with like what you're doing on the character. So let's get into like the specific playstyles. The playstyle number one is Smash, which is kind of what I was alluding to before. Just kill everything before it hurts you too badly. Who needs to block if you could just hit them for damage? A great enabler for this archetype is Feed. Deal 10 damage if fatal, raise your max HP by 3. This just lets you, get your max HP higher and higher and higher. You can tank a couple hits to try and let Feed, set up kills with Feed so you have more max HP. It lets rests heal you for more. By the time you get to the next act, you'll have like 100, 110 HP. And then you don't need to block as much because you're just getting very strong. So this archetype, probably the one I would recommend trying out first if you're very new to the game. Just play a bunch of attacks. It's very fun. You can win with the Ironclad without ever blocking by just maximizing your damage. For this playstyle, scale your damage, scale your max HP, get some card draw and energy so you can draw into more attacks in the same turn. Energy in particular can boost Whirlwind, which is very helpful. And then who needs blocks? Honestly, if you've ever seen an Ironclad speedrun, this can be very insightful on how powerful this build can be. It's not the best build. Some bosses or some elites can require blocking. So this won't get you everywhere, but it's a very fun playstyle. And if you're new to the game, can get you a sense of one of the more important things, which is outputting damage. The second playstyle for the Ironclad, and at the moment, because we're in early access, probably the strongest, is Chasing Infinites. This is just... Right now, it's very, very easy to go infinite on the Ironclad. So if you're just trying to maximize your win rate, I would just chase infinites almost exclusively on this character. It's incredibly powerful. And we'll talk about how to build those later. The playstyle 3 is the tank, basically the polar opposite of playstyle 1 where you're just doing all attacks. You just get a lot of block. You get Barricade, block is not removed at the start of your turn. Get 8 block for turn, Impervious, you just block everything. Then there's some Body Slam, there's a lot of block payoffs. This one's really fun because you just become unkillable. It's really centered around Barricade. Retaining block is so important for that. And then there's another playstyle that's just value. This character has so many good powers that just do nice things. Demon Form grows your strength. Stampede plays cards for free. Pyre gives you extra energy. So you could just take some good powers that help your character scale up. More like a mid-rangey value type build. This one's very fun because there's so many just good cards with little required to enable them. So I liked this build personally. So on any character, the first thing you generally want to be looking for is early damage. And Ironclad does that more, or wants that more than basically any other character. The nice thing is the Ironclad has so much good early damage. It is actually remarkable how much there is. It's basically any common you take will just be good for your deck. So starting out, regardless of what playstyle you're going into, you want to take some early damage so you can kill the early combats, get through Act 1 fairly easily. These are the good commons that you can probably be taking, and they'll help you out. These are the best to take long term because they're good as the game goes on. Pommel Strike, it's good for setting up infinites. If you upgrade it, it draws 2 cards. This is probably just the best one. It's card draw, it's damage. It says strike on it, which matters for things like Perfected Strike. Definitely, it's hard to have too many Pommel Strikes, especially upgraded Pommel Strikes, because draw 2 is very powerful. Headbutt is also just an incredible card because it gives you the ability to plan ahead. If you have a good card, you can put it on top, save it for next turn. If you know the boss is going to be attacking you, you can put one of your defensive cards on top of the deck so you draw it next turn. If you have card draw, you can headbutt a good card on top of your deck and then draw into it and play it immediately. Just a great card. And then Molten Fist, very high damage for energy output. It can give vulnerable, which cares about the archetype. And then the reason this card is actually good is because it exhausts itself. So in the early game, this just gives you a boost of damage, is enough to kill some early stuff. In the late game, it exhausts itself so it doesn't clog up your deck when you're trying to win Act 3. So I love Molten Fist for that reason. There's, like I said, there are so many good offensive cards. So if you're lucky, there's some really good rares and uncommons. You just take these and you can hit so hard with like basically any combination of them. You can kill enemies so quickly. So pick these up, try them out. They're very strong, and there's like I said, this character has so many good cards. These are also all great options to take early and kill elites, enemies, bosses, whatever you want with them. So the thing is, this character gets so much good early damage that you can just obliterate the Act 1 elites if you're playing around it. I posted a video like a couple days ago that goes more in depth on pathing and like planning, because you don't just want to run into like 6 elites back to back to back. You want to be smart with it. But this character is so good at killing elites, and that's how you can start scaling very quickly. So your early damage is so good. Use it to kill things like these guys. And that's how you get stronger, and that helps you get through Act 2 and 3. Because Act 1 for the Ironclad tends to be one of the easier acts because you just have so much good damage you can kill stuff. But Act 2 and 3, you need to start actually building a deck to get past fights like this guy, where he gives you dazed, he attacks for a ton of damage, you need to block. So if you can get some early relics from Act 1 elites, that definitely helps. But you need to have a scaling plan if you want to start beating Act 2 and 3 with the Ironclad, which is why we talk about scaling now. So what I mean by scaling is something that allows your deck to be more powerful than just the sum of the cards in it. Like there's some synergy going on where you can do some really, really, really strong stuff. So breaking down the archetypes, Dark Embrace and Vicious, like these archetypes tend to be the strongest. I think they're broken. They'll probably get patched, is my guess. So we want to be well-rounded and have other archetypes we can play. The strength maxing and self-damage archetypes are very good. You can win plenty of runs with those. And then the body slam or like defense maxing build, I think is situational, mostly because it relies on a lot of rares. So if you don't see those rares, it's hard to make body slam work as well as you would like it to. But almost all of the archetypes are very playable on this character. So like if you want a body slam, just do it. You'll probably be able to make it work. Unfortunately, like the way the character is now, infinites are the best thing you can possibly be doing if you're playing at a high level or you're playing to win, because you can kind of force an infinite almost every single run, and there aren't really any enemies that punish it. But I would expect this to be patched at some point. So if you're trying to learn the character, this is really fun. I would definitely do it because I'm doing it and having a blast. But eventually there will be something to punish this, or some reason why going infinite isn't the best possible thing to be doing. But if you want to go infinite, which is very fun, and if you're trying to win, this is probably the best thing to work towards. You can shrink your deck, and then you get a draw engine and get an energy engine. So shrinking your deck, this is why I talked about exhaust. It's incredibly powerful. You just get all of the cards that don't go infinite out of your deck. True Grit, if you upgrade it, it exhausts a specific card. Really powerful for getting things out of there. Fiendfire, if you just fill your hand with cards you don't care about, can just exhaust all of those. Same as Second Wind and Stoke. These three are so powerful because you can exhaust like 9 cards in one go. And if your deck is 18, that's like half of your deck. You've just set up your infinite. And then Brand is also really good. You can exhaust specific cards. It scales your strength. So it's really like you do this, and then you get a card draw engine. So now your deck is small, and then you have a way to repeatedly draw cards. Either that's Vicious, whenever you apply Vulnerable, draw a card. The upgrade on this is draw 2 cards, and that gets ridiculous. Dark Embrace, whenever a card is exhausted, draw a card. So if you think about like Dark Embrace plus Stoke, you can exhaust your hand and then draw 2 cards for each card exhausted. Or like now suddenly Brand draws a card when it works. So Dark Embrace is so powerful. Probably the best card on the character, or one of them. Pommel Strike, if you upgrade it, draws 2. Burning Pact, exhaust, and draws. So this is so good for making your deck smaller and drawing through it later. And then Pillage, if you're building like an infinite based on some attacks like Pommel Strike, can be a really good card draw engine as well. Vicious in particular, so far has really, really impressed me. If you can get an upgrade on this to draw 2, there's a lot of good vulnerable stacking. Thunderclap in particular, if there's 3 enemies, you're going to draw 2 for every enemy you put vulnerable on. So this can be like a 1-mana draw 6 in multi-combats, which is very powerful. So I value Taunt really highly for this reason because it's a good block card. Vulnerable is just nice to have, but then with Vicious out, it becomes 1 mana draw 2. Same with Molten Fist. If you're stacking Vulnerable, this is just great. Thunderclap, I would probably only take after I have a Vicious, but with a lot of enemies, this can draw so many cards. And then lastly, you need some kind of energy source. Bloodletting is a common, very reliable, easy to see. You do lose HP, but that's okay because you're playing your whole deck and killing them. And then Expect to Fight and Forgotten Ritual are both much better than Bloodletting if you can find them, because if you exhausted a card this turn is so easy to enable when you're playing a build that cares about shrinking your deck. So this is just so much energy. And then Expect to Fight is really good if you have a build that's based on more things like Pommel Strike and Pillage. Yeah, very good card as well. Easy mode, if you just have Spite, if you have 2 Spites, and if you picture this as your whole deck, you play a Spite, you draw a card. If there's a Spite in your discard, it's going to reshuffle and then you'll draw the Spite. And then you have a Spite in your discard and a Spite in your hand, you play the Spite, you redraw this Spite, and you just keep playing them back and forth. You can kill every single enemy in the game with this combo, basically. So 2 Spites and the ability to damage yourself is very easy, infinite. You can do this quite reliably. So I take Spite quite highly if you're going for infinites. I have quite a few video examples of infinites. Sometimes it can be helpful just to see it in practice. So just go check out my channel and watch a couple of these if you just want some practical experience in it. Then we'll get into some of the other archetypes. Fair Exhaust is also very fun. Still Dark Embrace is very helpful, and there's a lot of overlap between the archetypes here. Like you can play a Fair Exhaust deck that can go infinite but doesn't always go infinite. That's typically what I end up playing. But in that case, Feel No Pain is like, this card is crazy strong. Just take it and try it, because if you play like Feel No Pain, and then you have, where is it? Like Fiendfire, you exhaust your hand. You're doing 7 damage for each card exhausted. You're blocking for like 30 because you exhausted like 9 cards, you know? So Feel No Pain's awesome. Howl from Beyond, 16 damage to all enemies. At the start of your turn, plays from the exhaust pile. So if you had the ability to exhaust it previously, you just get this for free. I love this card. It's so much fun. And then Pack's End, 0 mana, deal 7 to all enemies, only if you have 3 cards exhausted. Very easy to enable if you just have a couple exhaust things. So this card's also really cool. And then Fair Vulnerable, there's a lot of, like, Bully is such a cool mechanic. Deal 4 damage, deals 2 additional damage for each vulnerable on the enemy. If you're taking Molten Fist, some other vulnerables, it's very easy to get this up to like 8 to 10, and suddenly Bully's hitting for like 30 damage. This card's very powerful. I've been very happy with it. Taunt is a good role player in this. It's good if you're trying to go infinite. It's good if you're not. Like, it just blocks for a lot. Colossus is like an insane block card. You receive 50% less damage from vulnerable enemies this turn. So if they're attacking you for 30, that becomes 15. And you get blocked from this too. Like, this card is, if you can reliably give vulnerable to the enemy, especially with Thunderclap, this card is nuts. And then Cruelty also upgrades to do, I think, 50% extra damage. Very powerful if you're trying to apply Vulnerable. If you go like Cruelty into Vulnerable plus Bully, that's a lot of damage. This is a very, very viable build that works often. Next is Strength Maxing. This is probably the most straightforward build. You just play cards that give you strength, and then you attack them. Inflame, Fight Me, Brand, and Rupture. All great cards. You just get a bunch of strength from them. And then you want payoffs that hit multiple times, because strength is a flat increase of damage to how much damage you're doing. So you want like small, cheap attacks that hit a lot. So something like Sword Boomerang, right? This attacks 3 times, or Whirlwind attacks X times. Fiendfire can attack like 9 times. Any kind of strength boost, you want these types of cards, because it's kind of like doubled or tripled or quadrupled. Like, a lot of strength plus Whirlwind can just kill every enemy in the combat sometimes. This is what a lot of speedrunners build towards. This build is very fun, and you can kill elites, you can kill bosses on turn 1 before they have a chance to hit you. So I love this type of scaling. The self-damage archetype, also really powerful. I think Inferno is the best card in the archetype. Whenever you lose HP on your turn, deal 6 damage to all enemies. This is such a good rework. The old card basically just said at the start of your turn, lose an HP and deal 6 damage. Now this is an archetype card, because whenever you lose HP, does damage. So like this plus Breakthrough does 15 damage to all enemies. Every time you play a Bloodletting, you're hurting all enemies. If you get a Rupture out there, you're getting Strength. Rupture is a great upgrade. You gain 2 Strength from it. So yeah, basically Inferno and Rupture are the things to look for, because that lets you get scaling out of damaging yourself. But they're really good. Spite, if you're trying to go infinite. Inferno is basically a free enabler for Spite. Even if you're not trying to go infinite, this card most of the time is just 0 mana, 6 damage, draw card. It's really good. But yeah, these two are, like, if you see these, take them and go into the archetype, because they're both really nice. I think Inferno is much better, but Rupture is very fun. So take of that what you will. Also worth mentioning, this relic in particular, Centennial Puzzle, when you lose life for the first time each combat, draw 3 cards, is just so good on this character. If you see it, just try and take it. Especially this interaction, Centennial Puzzle plus Bloodletting. You get, if you upgrade it, 3 energy and 3 cards for 0 mana at the start of a turn. It's a really strong start. So I really like this relic on this character in the self-damage archetype. There's a couple other relics that are great too, but this one in particular stands out as really enabling some strong turn 1 starts. Strangely, this card seems underwhelming. I haven't actually played it that much, so I could be wrong, but given how strong everything else is, the fact that this is 2 mana to do 5 damage and then hits more times for every time you lost an HP, I don't know if I like it, but you could probably scale it up to like 40 damage quite reliably. And it's okay. So I'm not saying it's a bad card, but of all the things you can be doing, this isn't the most exciting, but it's probably still totally serviceable. Then you have the big block archetype, where you're just getting a lot of block. Mostly centered around like Barricade and Body Slam. Barricade means block is forever, and then Body Slam does damage equal to your block. So you just get a lot of block, hit them with the Body Slam, move on to the next fight. This one's really fun, but I said it's situational because you'll notice all of these cards next to Body Slam are rares. So it's hard to take an early Body Slam without having like these rares to set it up. I think Crimson Mantle and Unmovable are the most like generically playable cards. So you could start there, and then if you see a Body Slam, you can kind of speculate, then get a Barricade, and then you're kind of into the archetype, and then you just get like 100 blocks stacked up, nothing can hurt you, and this does 100 damage. It's really fun. I like this build a lot. There's some really good enablers for specifically Juggernaut and Barricade. Feel No Pain and Second Wind are really good at getting a bunch of separate block triggers. So this says, whenever you gain block, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. It doesn't care how much block you're gaining, but you want a bunch of separate block gain triggers. So Second Wind, for example, gives you like 5 different block gain triggers. Feel No Pain whenever a card is exhausted. If you exhaust like 6 cards from your hand, this is going to be 6 triggers off Feel No Pain, which will do a lot of damage with Juggernaut. And these also are just some of the best ways to like stack up a ton of block in one turn. So look for these if you're trying to build a Barricade Juggernaut deck, but they're also just good in exhaust. And like I said, there's so much overlap between the archetypes here that I really like this character. And then this one's really fun. It's just power spam. This character has a bunch of just good cards. Like Crimson Mantle, you can play in a block archetype. It loses HP, so you can play in a life loss archetype. It's also just 8 block per turn, which is totally good. So you can play like that, Demon Form, Pyre, Cascade. Just take all the good cards, put them in a deck, go nuts. Again, this is a little high variance because a lot of these tend to be rares and uncommons, but it's a lot of fun just playing a bunch of good cards in one deck, and it actually works on this character sometimes. And with that, we're on to the tier list, which is probably what most people are looking for anyway. Like I said, just a brief overview. We have a lot in S, a lot of cards in A, quite a few cards in B, and then C and D are quite small. Like, this character is very playable, and there's just so many good cards on him. Right now, all the S tier cards, for the most part, are ones that can let you go infinite. or they have like crazy blocking, like Evil Eye blocks for 16. Um, but the best thing you can be doing on this character is chasing infinites right now. I expect that to change, but for now, like Dark Embrace, Vicious, Brand, Stoke, Corruption, Feel No Pain, Burning Pact, these are just the best cards on the character. Like Offering, Spite, Pommel Strike, because it's just so easy to go infinite. And once you go infinite, there's nothing that punishes you at the moment. So you just do that and win, especially up to like Ascension 10. Very reliable way to keep winning. So these are all S tier, but they're also just good in their respective archetypes. Like if they patch infinites or there's like something to punish you, these cards are still going to be really good. Because instead of going infinite, they're just going to set up so that your deck is just, 7 amazing cards that you can keep playing a lot. Like if you have Dark Embrace, Brand plus Inferno, you can just get a ton of strength, hit the enemy for 6 damage a bunch of times, and then win with like a ham sandwich, right? So you don't have to go infinite for this to be good. But most of the S tier cards are all in here. Feed is nice. It exhausts, so you have exhaust synergies. It grows your HP. It's just really good. Battle Trance is such an above rate card draw engine, especially early on. It just lets you find all of your best enablers. For Battle Trance specifically, I don't like having more than one copy of Battle Trance is awesome. 2 is a little bit sketchy, and 3 or more is quite bad. But the first copy of Battle Trance is so good, because the drawback is real. So if you play Battle Trance and draw another Battle Trance, you're going to be sad. But especially early game, this is so good at setting up like your draws. I love this card. Yeah, not too much to say about these. Drum of Battle, like, this is kind of just 0 mana draw 2. The downside exists because you are randomly exhausting, so you could exhaust your good cards. But your deck is big enough you can kind of handle 1 or 2 random exhausts. So I rate this card quite highly. It's kind of like Battle Trance that just draws 1 less card. But it does exhaust stuff, so if you have like Feel No Pain or Dark Embrace, this quote-unquote drawback could be an upside where you get blocked for free or you draw a card for free. So I've been impressed with this card quite a bit. Offering is nuts. It just, you draw cards, gain energy, it's perfect. Yeah, just take that card. Thrash is nice because it scales so well, and it does exhaust as well, right? You can get the strikes out of your deck with this. It's a great win condition that also thins your deck. Just a perfect card. So that's the S tier. A tier is just all good damage for the most part. Like, most of these cards don't particularly go infinite, so they're not going to be good every single run at high level now, but probably after a couple patches, many of these will like float into the S tier. Just good damage. Stomp, this is basically 0 mana, deal 12 to all enemies. That's crazy. Colossus is one of the best block cards ever made. If you're in the archetype, Crimson Mantle, repeatable block, like, it's great. Bludgeon's good damage. Taunt I like because of how good the vulnerable archetype tends to be. And same with like Breakthrough and Bully. Like, they're just all really good playable cards. I like all of them. The only one I haven't played is Dismantle. I don't know if this card is good, but if you're in the archetype, this is kind of 1 mana, 16 damage. Seems totally playable to me. I've played all the rest of them and been very happy with them. True Grit, worth mentioning. It maybe should be a little bit lower, just because it requires an upgrade to be playable in the most part. Unupgraded True Grit is a little bit sketchy, but this is one of the best upgrades in the game. So if you can upgrade a True Grit, definitely A tier. I'm a Sword Boomerang believer. A lot of people hate this card because it's random, but it is one of the best strength scaling cards in the game. It upgrades to attack 4 times. So if you get like +2 strength, that's going to be +8 damage on an upgraded Sword Boomerang. It is random, but that also can let you kill multiple enemies in a combat where something like Twin Strike can't. So I like this card, but just know that it's pretty sketchy in multi-enemy combats because it's not going to hit what you want. But if you have a ton of strength, maybe that's an upside because then you can just kill everything for 1 mana. Whirlwind's probably better than Sword Boomerang as a strength payoff, though. Then we get into B tier. These are all still great cards. They're a little bit more situational or like a little bit clunkier, I guess. Like, Barricade's a great card, but you have to build around it. Same with like Hellraiser, Juggernaut. Unmovable maybe should be high B tier because maybe it's even A tier. I don't know. This card's quite good. Same with Demon Form. These don't require really any building, but there's a lot of these like power cards that are really helpful. But you can't have like too many of them unless you're all in on it. So they're kind of B tier, but like these are all totally perfectly playable cards that I'd be happy to put in my deck. And then, like I said, the C and D tier is very small. Havoc, I think, is the worst card on the character because this is almost always random exhaust. You can pair Havoc with Headbutt specifically. So you put something you know on top and then play it. But that's such a niche interaction. And most of the time, this is just going to be disappointing. Or even if you do hit your best card, like you have to exhaust your best card. So I think this is probably the worst card. And then like a lot of these are just kind of middling. Iron Wave is okay if you get it on floor 1 specifically, but otherwise it's kind of bad attack and bad damage. You can pair it with Grapple, so like whenever you block, deal 5 damage to the enemy. It gets interesting. Like I said, this is still C tier, so they're totally playable. They're just worse than like, there's just so many better options that I've basically almost never found myself taking these cards. Cinder, I think, is high C tier because on floor 1, if you just get offered this card, it's acceptable damage. I would prefer basically any of these other attacks, but I've played this card. It's still totally fine. And yeah, I think that covers almost everything. One thing worth mentioning, the specific sorting within the tiers isn't like fully fleshed out. Like maybe Rage belongs in high B tier, same with 1-2 Punch. But basically the takeaway here is there's just so many good cards in the Ironclad that the distinction between like anything above here, you can kind of just take it and be happy. And then you'll be kind of sad with these cards is all. Anyway, if you like this, consider subscribing. I'm going to be making tier lists and videos like this for the other characters, so let me know which ones you'd like to see next, and I'll see you next time.